Thank you, Anton. Many things to consider. Ladies and gentlemen, we've really run out of time to come to the end of our discussion. I'm going to ask Tony to wrap up the session and give us your final input to consider. Thank you very much for coming.
Okay, thank you very much, folks. Yes, it's been an incredibly interesting conversation, and I thank you all for committing to it. And I'm just going to wrap up. I don't want to give you a long story. I'm just going to try to wrap up with a couple of words. What I see in the audience here today is something quite remarkable. I see a depth of technical expertise that is absolutely amazing. You probably have more technical expertise in this room here today than you have over a large area in South Africa. That is incredibly good. That's an asset that you have. Deep technical expertise, deep experience. The second thing that I see in the room here today, which is remarkable, is goodwill. There's an amount of goodwill. Even though there are different opinions, there's goodwill. There's the willingness to cooperate, the willingness to work together. That's remarkable, absolutely remarkable. The third thing that I see here, and we've seen the numbers from that flooding, the cost of hiring that machinery, and the capacity of society to respond fairly quickly by mobilizing some large sums of money, millions of rands. We've seen private landowners here, their willingness to do stuff, and then ultimately they get blamed for stuff, but there's willingness there. So the capacity of the people in the audience here to mobilize capital is quite remarkable. So those are the three really, really good things I see here. These are three assets. These are three major assets. What I don't see here today, unfortunately, I'm not trying to point fingers or to pick at scabs or anything like that. That's not my intention. I don't see the local municipality here. And that's a problem because they are part of the process. They're very much part of the process. Government is part of the process. The water affairs guys, the draft guy, where is he? You know, they are not part of the problem. They're part of the solution. We're not trying to gang up against government departments. Not at all. They are part of the solution. However, what we've heard here today as well is something that I spoke about earlier on, about state failure. We've heard about state failure today, the empirical examples of state failure. I mean, take this peatland thing, for example. It was identified some time ago. Has it got any better? Are we any closer to a solution today than we were when it was first identified? Probably no. So there's a failed example there. The local residents with their technical capacity, clearing reeds, etc. Are they enabled in any way? Is there support for this? We know they get blocked and they get this and that. There's this sort of constant chess game that's being played. That's a failure. So we are actually dealing with, even though we're in a beautiful bubble here, I mentioned the bubble earlier on, we're in that bubble, but in that bubble, things are failing. Things are failing. Yes, the roads are looking good and whatever, but the processes of converting inputs into outputs, processes of harvesting the goodwill of society are ultimately under severe pressure. And I spoke earlier on in my talk about the erosion of trust. One of the poisons that's happening in South Africa today is the erosion of trust. People don't trust government anymore. We don't trust the special interests anymore. Trust is a corrosive and a toxic thing. There's some goodwill here, but trust is an issue. So how do we rebuild those things? That's very important. It's in our collective best interest to do it. So I just want to encourage you, folk, for doing what you're doing. I think you really have done a fantastic thing, and you probably are an example for other parts of the country. But we are on a road kind of to a big hiding here. We're on a road that, unless we can get local government involved and committed, that social contract that I spoke about is going to be renegotiated. And it's not going to be renegotiated here in Onrus. It's going to be renegotiated in KZN and in the Free State and in Soweto and those sort of angry people. They're going to renegotiate the social contract. And when that social contract gets renegotiated, no one in the room has got any influence anymore because the actual law gets swept aside. The law is irrelevant. Is the law an enabler or is the law an impediment? The Mr. Plod, the policeman thing. Where does the law enable you and where doesn't it? And I'll just close up by saying I was an expert witness in a court case in KZN. There was a legal, lawful sand miner. Lawful, legal sand miner. They were mining sand out of a river. They were issued with the Section 21, National Water Act Section 21 impeding the bank, flood and whatever of the river, the flow of the river. They were shut down. The purpose of the shutdown was so that illegal miners could move in and take over the area. So the legal entity was shut down, and unlawful people came in. Today it's a shambles in that area. There's another unlawful miner in the Mzimkhulu River, where I live. We're trying to get the same department to come and do the same thing, Section 21, on the unlawful miner, and there's not a snowball's hope in hell that we can get that done. Why is that so? So why is the lawful sand miner shut down? They're Indians, and they lost their business. And yet an unlawful operation is not shut down and apparently protected. So we're getting a selective application of the law. That's not good enough. It's not good enough. The law must be there without fear or favour. It must be applied uniformly to everybody. If it's not done like that, then you don't have law anymore. Then you have the rule of law breaks down. If we can't implement the reserve because of some technical whatever mumbo jumbo wara wara, then it's irrelevant. It's no longer relevant. So these things are important. You know, maybe the act is too complex for us to actually implement. Maybe the aspirational level when we initially negotiated it and developed it, maybe we don't have that ability anymore. Maybe it's no longer applicable. I don't know. These are all sort of open-ended questions. There are more questions today than there are answers in South Africa. But I just want to close up by saying that I think what you people are doing is remarkable stuff. They're committed people here, competent people, goodwill, enormous amount of goodwill. Just keep on keeping on. You know, reach out to the local authority. They will eventually talk. They have to talk. Elections are upon us, and the election dynamics are another animal. But I believe, I don't want to stick my neck out on a block here, but I believe that the 2024 elections are going to be really, really, really important. Probably as important as the 1994 elections for a whole bunch of reasons. And I think we're going to see a fundamental change taking place in the way that we govern. And if we don't see that change through evolutionary process, then I'm afraid we're going to see that a more vigorous change by revolutionary processes. It's not going to happen in the bubble here. It's going to happen out there. But it's going to influence it without any question of doubt. So that's it. You know, I just want to close up by saying thank you very much, guys. Just keep on keeping on. And, I have another tip, but it's a great pleasure to stand in front of you. And I really just wish you well. That's all I do. Just keep on going. Thanks a lot.
John?
I'm becoming an old toppy now, and sometimes my memory, desalination. The global benchmark for desalination is 35 US cents per cubic meter. Global benchmark. Think about that. Convert that to rands and cents, is not the numbers you put there. 35 US cents, the Saudis are trying to push it down to 25 US cents. 25 US cents is cheaper than what the bulk water provision is if an authority buys from waterfalls. So the technologies are going down, and in fact, waterfalls have been doing some remarkable work in Durban. They've just done some really, really intense research on taking sewage, effluent, and putting it into the seawater that comes into a desalination plant and changing the osmotic pressure. By changing the osmotic pressure, you fundamentally alter the energy needed, and you change the OPEX cost for the life of that plant 30 years. And I'm working right now in a confidential way with a lot of capital managers, people that are big financiers working on this issue. And I firmly believe that desalination is going to be very, very much part of the future in South Africa, and it's not going to be at the cost that you're talking about there, because it's going to be driven by different sets of economics. And one of the big things is the volume throughputs. If your volume throughput's too small, then it's just not economically viable. But 50 meg a day upwards, that kind of thing, those sort of plants, I think are going to.
Have we done with solar power?
There are all sorts of things. I mean, you can use wind. There's a whole bunch of. There's a revolution. In fact, when I was coming here yesterday, while we were coming over Solari's Pass, my telephone rang. Did it not? My telephone rang, and one of these very, very bright young wunderkinder that are involved in this thing, they now just saw some other nuclear reactor, and they're talking about nuclear stuff and desalination, wada. There's this sort of amazing off-the-wall stuff, okay? So there is a silent revolution happening out there. Desalination is going to happen. Whether it happens here or not, I don't know. But it's going to, I believe it's going to be a fundamental game changer in South Africa, and I'm extremely bullish on it. So that's it. Okay, I've said enough.
Let me tell you, the pebble-based nuclear reactor that I used to work on, that's an extreme, that's an example of a solution for that one. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very, very much for coming. Thank you to the organizers for arranging all of this, and thank you to each of the speakers. And as Tony said, thank you for the expertise, for the goodwill, for the passion for our environment and what we need to do to safeguard our fantastic city. Thank you. Drive home safely. We'll see you again next year. Thank you all.
Soldier of freedom in the army of the man. Oh, we are the chosen, we're the partisan. Alright. Well, the cause it is noble and the cause it is just. We are ready to pay with our lives if we are. Gonna ride across the river, deep and wide. Right across the river